welcome to the KrakCast. Today we have a little special episode, a little discussion on the topic of something that we all love and hold dear in our hearts. Those electric scooters that are goddamn everywhere right now.
All our listeners going, I knew this was coming.
You can't hear them coming, but you know they're everywhere. So
the time has come to address this with a full-on special, because the electric scooter movement is not contained to Krakow. This is a global phenomenon popping up around cities all around the world, Mikey. We're gonna solve the world's problems, much like a disrupting tech company.
Exactly. We're not afraid of this issue. We're going to face it head on and make the world a better place after these 15-20 minutes.
Why do tech companies always have to change the world? Why can't they just capture photographs and allow people to comment on them and not pretend that changes the world? Anyway, so total side note there. Go.
Yeah. So, Krakow is one of those cities that is being added to those list of cities with electric scooters. They're all over the place, and especially in the States, but now in European cities. Actually, I just saw the other day that the fastest man alive, Usain Bolt, has gotten lazy and started his own little electric rental scooter company over in Paris. Did you guys see this?
No.
It's fabulous, but it's just like the fastest man in the world now can't be bothered walking.
Is it called Bolt Scooters?
It better be, actually.
Yeah, is it going to be an Olympic sport? I suppose scooter racing is. Yeah.
Right, well,
God help us.
But in Krakow right now, we have two companies that are vibing to be the leader, and we'll have Lime joining them in a couple of months as well. But they're everywhere. They are everywhere right now, and that's part of the problem. They're being left in the middle of the sidewalk and parking spaces, who knows where. People just don't know what to do with them, and the city doesn't know what to do with them, and it's making things complicated. You guys have any thoughts on them?
What some of the companies insist that you send them a picture after you park it. This is part of their behavioural push. They couldn't have just asked the cities that they were going to dump these in beforehand. No. I have to dump them first and then ask a few questions later, while lobbying to keep all regulations out of sight. But some of the companies are making a show of you putting it in a designated spot. So now I have a question. Every day I go to work, I walk around the corner towards Ronda Żygajetska, and there's always 5, 6, 7, 8 of these things at the corner where Tata Burger is. You know what I'm talking about? Used to have the big Pram America sign before they took it down over there.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
So, my question is that a designated spot? Is that what they consider a good place to have scooters strewn in the street where everyone's rushing for a tram and people are trying to use one of the main arteries of the city while they're on their way to work?
Actually, I think that's one of the problems right now. There are no officially designated spots, and that's something we'll talk about in a bit, about what the city's suggestion is for these problems.
There's like a vague guideline, isn't there? Like, once it's not blocking traffic or it's, out of the way and not in a footpath or something. I think that's...
Around where I live, every day I go to work, I pass 2 or 3 there in the same spot when I turn the corner off of Villa Polo. They're right in the middle of the sidewalk. They're not even up against a building or up against a signpost. They're right in the middle of the sidewalk. And, sometimes somebody's walking in front of you, they turn to the left and you don't realize that they're turning to, avoid this obstacle, and you walk right into it. I think they're, kind of obstructive in that sense. That's only part of the problems. Then you have people riding around these things. You don't hear them coming up behind you. They go a lot faster than you would expect them to. They're coming at you. You don't know. When somebody's walking towards you, you always have that little dance, who goes left, who goes right. You should always stick to the right people, by the way. But usually you get to that point where, both people have to stop. When you have a scooter coming at you, several times faster, then you don't have time to do that little dance. You just end up slamming into somebody.
You don't have time to kind of aim a carefully planted left hook on his pimply hipster jaw.
And especially on, say, somewhere like the footpath on the big bridge going over towards the economic university, there's a lot of tarmac there to build up speed on these things, and I was shocked how fast some people on the downslope were going by me. I was thinking, like, if you come off that is going to be
yes.
Nothing protecting you. That's an ankle fucker right there.
If you're lucky, it's your ankle. If you're not, it's your face is smeared across that pavement,
No protective clothing.
You won't be pretty anymore.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like an old grandpa about this. Like, I might jump on one and have a go. Like, I think one of us really should have before. We did this. But, I'd like to pull it back a little bit and talk about where the push is coming from, because I have a bit of a theory here, and then I'll talk a bit about the basic economics of the situation. There's massive pools of VC money being pushed into companies that are the future of automated transport, etc. And a lot of these companies are not yet public. There's not a huge amount of shares to buy. So there's a lot of interest in new transport plays. People want these sexy little transport packages in their portfolio. And a lot of that money has gone into solving the classic last mile problem. That's what they think they're doing. They're changing the world. They think they're changing the world, making the world a better place. Now you can link up the bus services, the tram networks. In theory, it makes some sense, but the economics behind this are fascinating to me because Uber are getting involved in this in a big way as well. All of the big companies that are already in the space of ride sharing, etc., because they see the pricing is quite attractive on this. Now, McKinsey produced a report basically laying all this out, and I'm going to extract some information about this. The key revenue is $365. This is based on the American market, where it's huge. It's coast to coast. A lot of cities have these scooters. And $365, right, that's a fixed fee of $1 and 18 minutes average duration, $265. You break even on one of these things. It costs $400 to buy for one of these companies, and within 4 months, they've made their money back on the scooter. This makes it a much less risky investment on paper. We'll get to some of the real world hazards they're creating here and some of the real world perverse incentives later. But it starts to make sense when you start to put the figures down. I guarantee you, most of these companies are going to go bang, never make a cent of profit. But there's this scramble nearly to be the one, to be the Uber left at the end of it all, I suppose. I
think the key that's worth accentuating here. I mean, we've covered this in the past, but I think it's worth kind of like re-emphasising is the technology here has enabled a cost saving in terms of terminals and locks and things like that. Because they're electric scooters, because they're basically unlocked by the app on your phone, there is no need to have these, the expensive infrastructure which we have with the Vivelo bicycles, which I think has actually worked very well. I mean, the original city bikes we had here were less well administered. The Vavelos are very, very good. They've been becoming more and more popular year on year, but they are a physical thing. Yes, in certain circumstances, you can leave them locked up in places that are not lock-up stations, but you still have to physically lock them up. I think the great advantage from a, shall we say, economic point of view of these scooters is that without the magic gizmo connection between your phone and the scooter, it just simply won't go.
That's for now. I won't be long till someone hacks that. Let me tell you, I can guarantee you, probably someone's working on that.
The Russians.
But there's also the simple fact that they fall into a regulatory grey area. Where are they supposed to go? The cycle path, the footpath, or the road?
Or straight to hell.
Well, the fact of the matter is
the highway to hell. Yeah.
These companies play it both ways, don't they? They try and play the legal lobbying game, making sure there's no regulations specifically banning them from being on footpaths. While at the same time, in their terms of use, they tell their users, "Oh, do not ride these on a footpath. These are not for footpaths." So you're going to ride a little electric scooter around a busy roundabout? It's crazy.
There are easier ways to commit suicide. Yeah. But the truth is, that's one of the main problems that the city here has right now is where do you stick them in a regulatory sense? They're not in Poland. Basically every vehicle is in some kind of a group. If it's a motor vehicle, if it's a bicycle, if it's an electric scooter, like the actual moped types, they're all regulated. But
sorry to interrupt, Mike. What's the deal? What's the deal with like electric? What I think of as electric wheelchairs, but mobility devices, the things that kind of people who are old and not so spry sit on, and they're allowed on the pavements, I believe.
Yeah, but they go so slow.
They go so slow, and you're going to notice them coming.
I thought that was just because they were old people. I mean, if you rev them up, they go, don't they?
I'm pretty sure there are ones that go a little faster than that. But those mobility scooters are designed to actually help people walk at a pace equivalent to walking and moving around. So you're kind of making up for the fact that they can't walk at a normal pace.
Also, I forgot to mention when I was doing a little rant about the Californian culture that produced this whole idea of disruption. You always know that's where the money's coming from when a new buzzword appears, and they call this whole economic area micromobility. Oh, fucking shoot the English.
Yeah, but this goes back to what you were saying, the last mile problem, which is the whole idea being that even if you have a well built up public transportation system, some people might not want to use it because they're a 5-10 minute walk away from
the problem was a great name for it. What the fuck does micromobility mean?
They want to make the names even more complicated so people are even more confused and think that's a better way to make money. But in Poland, in Krakow, you have public transportation networks so built up in the center of town that you're really so close to a stop that using this to get to...
It makes no sense.
And out in the more rural areas where stops are more further apart, You don't have those scooters there, so basically it's just kids using these things to get
There's a scooter
around.
in the hedgerow.
I was wondering, right? What lazy git is riding that scooter along? Because my building is the last building before the river, and it's only 150, 200 meters to the to the edge of the run. So what journey are these helping people cover? Like they're literally saving 85 seconds, I think.
They're not saving any time here. They're just burning less calories and being less of more of a hassle to everybody around them.
Talon introduced a huge program which featured these scooters, and then they did a study on it afterwards, and they found absolutely no reduction in car journeys and a big reduction in walking, which is a point John's made several times about Uber. Similar studies have shown in cities that it's actually Uber's made people get a cab where they would have walked previously. That's the real thing, that's ticked up on you.
Well, I think the biggest disappointment today for those of us who were alive in the 1960s is that we're not travelling around with jetpacks or with kind of little propellers on our heads.
Where are the tubes? Damn it! Where are the tubes?
Yeah,
the jetpack was always a pretty mad idea, wasn't it?
it was. I mean, even like was it You Only Live Twice? That James Bond movie, Sean Connery one, where he takes off in a jetpack, and the reality of it was that there was enough fuel in that thing to keep him aloft for like 45 seconds. Or
yes,
and a severe danger of burning the heels of your shoes.
Well, that's the thing. You wouldn't want to
Yeah, right.
But there are modern jetpacks, which there's some amazing videos on YouTube of it. Like, just for the crack, making a video on YouTube, I'm all for the jetpack. If you want to risk your life strapping on canisters of, heavily pressurized...
Or maybe like a drone kind of shoulder thing, where you got 4 propellers. Like, right, so, yeah.
I've gone way off track.
If anybody gets too close to you, decapitated.
Yeah, mincemeat, yeah.
No, but these scooters, they're a problem for the city because they don't exactly know how to register them. Like, do they go on sidewalk? Well, technically, according to the law right now, just like Segways, they're considered pedestrians, especially by the police, because they can't be classified as an actual vehicle. They can't even be classified as bicycles. So technically, they're supposed to stick to the sidewalks. But obviously, when you're going that fast with an electric motor, you shouldn't be whizzing around other people. But then again, a bike path, you're also a danger there, or even on the busy street. So the city doesn't exactly know how to register them. Another problem is, like you were saying, they're being left all over the place, but they're also making money when they're doing that. In this city, if you run a business and you want to, say, have a chair or a table outside your restaurant and cafe to get a few more extra customers you have to pay the city for that, few square meters of space you're taking up. With the scooter being lying around like that, you're technically also running your business kind of like in the public space. So technically, there's a lot of people saying that these companies should be paying the city for the sidewalk they're taking up at that moment. That just makes things even more complicated. So there's a lot of talk about ordinances being brought in or other type of legislation to just figure out what to do here. And the city is also...
It's just messy looking. I don't need to be an old man about it. It's just messy looking.
They're like trash running around. And actually, some people in the city have said, I think they're doing this up in Warsaw, that if it actually is left in a place that is obviously an obstruction, the city just picks them up and warehouses them and then charges the company for them, and they're probably going to considering doing that.
That's a great idea.
Yes, now that's and that's a good incentive.
And I can guarantee you they've got armies of lawyers working on why that's illegal as well.
And we're going to start seeing police on them soon, I reckon, because like Krakowska, for example, where you cannot get down it any other way than like bicycle or pedestrian or scooter.
Right, scootering down Krakowska.
So we're going to see kind of like
scooters,
navy blue and white kind of special scooters with extra enhanced powers and flashing lights.
Though I admit, like, even though it might look ridiculous, seeing a police officer, walking his beat on one of these things kind of makes sense because, first of all, it means he's more rested if he has to run somewhere faster, and he has the ability to like catch up to somebody somewhere. So
right,
so I can actually understand it. It's like when you have security guards in malls and in airports running around on those Segways. It looks a little silly, but actually it makes a lot of sense.
Also, by the way, they think that they've introduced this and that they've thought of all the potential problems. But I can guarantee you, right? It's not geniuses and other VCs and other firms they need to worry about. It's little dudes who don't get any supervision sitting around on walls in Dublin smoking cigarettes thinking, what about we just fuck them all in the river? What are you going to do then? I don't give a shit. And vandalism will become a thing. And then there'll be another little dude who'll just think of a way of hacking the software, yeah?
Oh, man, I could just
unlocking them or maybe making them drive on their own. Why not? It'll be ghost.
That's it, yeah. We wake up one day and there'll be an army of unmanned scooters kind of like hovering threateningly outside.
How much momentum do they take from the person to get going? Like, I mean, could you, if you went full power and jugged it up a little bit and jumped off the thing, I mean, would it go?
I'm pretty sure we're going to have YouTube videos of people doing some stupid challenges on these things soon. Like, around the river, they're just going to like see who's, dumb enough to ride it right into the water, which a lot of people don't realize right by the edge, the water there can be really low. It can only be like a meter or half a meter deep. So, I can imagine people just riding that scooter and see who's jump into the water one of those little electric scooters or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining videos on YouTube.
But we're probably
soon.
fortunate that summer's been a little bit late kicking off this year, but give it a week or two, and I'm sure we will have lots of news items to.
There was a good point made in an article I was reading about this as well, is maybe we're a bit old for these scooters, but there's a generation below us that love these things called razor scooters, which are considered a very good Christmas gift. They're like...
Well, these ones you could kind of almost fold up and put in your pocket.
No, they were electric scooters.
Oh, right.
People, a lot of kids have a lot of practice on these. They're now in their 20s, and they don't think twice about jumping on these and the safety thing, because they rode them around their housing estates and their car parks when they were kids. But what I wanted to talk about next is how they're charged. This is fascinating.
Oh, yeah, because, of course, as a business, they have to figure out a way to get these things charged.
The whole hidden ecosystem of maintenance and charging and possible repairs. So basically it seems the way it works is as they, you sign up, Lime call it a juicer, so you sign up and... I'll read this, okay? Because I found this very interesting. This is from an article I was reading about this. It turns out the charging system is akin to a real-life Pokemon Go, albeit one rife with cheating. The app purports to tell you where nearby chargeable scooters are, but in reality, that's rarely the case. Duplicitous collectors have created a thriving ecosystem of stockpiling, hiding, and decoying that makes it well nigh impossible to find a scooter in need of charging. When picking up a scooter, chargers are supposed to capture it via a button on the app. This deletes the flag so others don't have to waste time scouting for that particular bird. It also stops the clock on the reimbursement meter. The longer a scooter goes without being captured, the greater the commission bird will pay its chargers. What do you think about that?
So basically,
incentives?
A lot of ways to make money, and actually that means less of a service available to people who actually want to use it. So they're being hidden away somewhere somebody can make money charging it, and at the same time hiding away for people that might actually want to use it or having it charged and ready to go.
I will give them credit for one thing, whoever launched these companies, Lime, Bird, etc. It's a fucking mad idea.
I'll also say,
mental business model.
Say this about what the system we have here. If we have three companies operating, presumably three competing brands of scooter, then we have greater opportunity to find out which business models frankly suck and which are obviously onto a winner. Because really, you don't want to have one option foisted upon you that within kind of a small period of time you think, yeah, okay, quite a good idea, but this obviously doesn't work because these people are making a mint out of this, and them making a mint out of it means that we don't actually get access to the scooters. So, I mean, you want an incentive for people to charge these things. This makes absolute sense. But I mean, if you then have a system whereby kind of people are rushing around stealing charge-ready scooters from other people in order that they can charge them and earn a few groshi, and there isn't scooters for people to use. I don't know. I mean, I find myself caring less and less and less about the whole issue. But then I ride a bicycle.
You're one of those people.
Yeah, good job John's not.
You're a very civilised bike rider. No problem with lofty bicyclists like yourself. Hans Siegel so elegantly at every junction. I mean, anything else we want to say about scooters? We're not fans of them. I would say it's one of these things we actually agree on. I think
it might seem like a nice idea on paper, but as soon as you see it in the real world, you realize it just has so many holes in it. And it's an idea that might make sense in some places in the U.S., but in crowded European cities, which have really centralized populations, crowded sidewalks and roads and bicycle lanes, it just doesn't really.
Well, look, I think I made
appeal.
Okay, I'm just going to, as a sort of a wrap up, but I think I might have made this point in a previous talk about these scooters. But at the moment, maybe less than 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 people on the pavement is a person riding one of these scooters. Imagine the scenario where every single there is no pedestrian, there are just people on scooters. It would be carnage. Just think of that. If the aim of these companies is to get everybody on scooters instead of walking,
never happen.
Well,
this little thing called dignity. Some of us. Let me make a firm prediction, because I like a firm prediction, Josh. It's It's all a fad. You won't hear anything about these scooters in 5 years. They'll eventually be disappear when they get even just slightly less convenient for people to use, and when the injuries start stacking up, and when they start to become a joke, like Segway riders were in the early noughties. That's when it'll all end. When they become the punchline in dramedies, those Netflix comedies with very little jokes. There'll be someone silently riding a scooter down, and everyone will hate him, and it'll be a whole thing. You'll be a scooter wanker.
It'll be a modern equivalent of tumbleweed, to seeing a sorrowful, lonely scooter rider just going across the horizon.
Google Glass, good idea on paper, but unless people don't feel like an asshole doing it.
I did actually have to try Google. Oh yes, I remember that sort of like monocle thing that you wore with head-up display. Yeah,
it's like a double monocle, a pair of glasses.
Oh.
I think that's all we got to say on scooters.
Yeah, I think we've done them to death. I mean, I think actually, one thing we can ask is our listeners, because we want you guys to comment. I'd like to see some suggestions on stupid things that you could do on one of these electric scooters. I just want to see ideas.
Or stupid things you've seen already done on these scooters, even better.
I agree.
All right. So, like I said, comment, subscribe, like, share, and we hope you all have a fabulous week ahead of you. So that's it from all of us here at the KrakCast.